Who's your emergency contact? Who should we notify in the case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I've spent the last 2+ decades of my life. Right now, we're in bloody Beaumont. And if you've been following these episodes, you know it gets hectic over there in bloody Beaumont. But in almost any penitentiary, there's places. These places, it's a miserable place. It's places full of people that are condemned. Violent people with psychological problems. And for the most part of my time, you're just surrounded by chaos. But we have rules in place. Rules in place to try to keep the peace and to keep the drama to a minimum. I mean, if minimum means just every other day or a couple times a week. Because you're just in a pot, a boiling pot. It's like a gumbo with people from all aspects of life, different races, different gangs. So it's a hostile environment. And sometimes things just doesn't work out. And sometimes when a situation arises, you have intelligent individuals, people in position of leadership to help try to minimize the damage or the potential slaughter. In this particular episode, we have a black guy and a white guy that had a beef from another spot. Now, I don't know the exact story of how this transpired. I just know what happened when they got to bloody Beaumont. And then after it happened, people relayed the story to me while it was over. I guess this black guy and this white guy were locked down in another place. They must have been in the shoe, because one of them was in the hallway being escorted by the police to go to rec or medical, and the other guy was in the cell. But the beef that the guy in the cell had was with the police. And what he wanted to do to get back at the police was to throw piss on them through the door. So when he pissed in a cup or in a milk carton and tried to splash the police with the piss, some of it hit the guy that was being escorted. Like I said, I don't know if it was the black guy that was being escorted by the police or if it was the white guy that's being escorted by the police. But the inmate that was being escorted by the police got pissed off and took offense to it. And they had an exchange of words, talking about, hey, when we meet up, you know what time it is. Now, I don't know if these people are expected to ever run into each other again. Because, when you're fighting your case, federal cases, and you catch that Con Air, the plane, you never know where you're gonna go. They might keep you within 500 miles of your home, or they might ship you across the country. Well, one of them was already in the yard in Beaumont. And then just a few months later, the other guy showed up. At this particular time, they call rec. I live in CA. So when I come out, DADB is across from us. There's a walkway. CACB's on this side. DADB's on the other side. So when you come out, there's a walkway, and you walk out. At the end of the walkway is what I call the intersection. When you cross the walkway, you can go into yard 3 or yard 1 that has a track. If you go right, you're going towards yard 2 and 3 and A and B block. If you go to the left, you're going to E and F block. The sidewalk curves a little bit heading over to E and F block. Now, but between E block and D block, I notice there's a big ass crowd of people, standing, politicking. And it's all whites and it's all blacks. When I say it's all white and it's all black, I mean every available body, every white dude on the compound was standing there. When I say all black, the same thing. Every available body, every black guy on the compound is over there. The rest of us, Mexicans and others, we're not over there in the crowd, because when you come out and you see a scene like that, you evaluate it. And for me, I keep it real simple. Does this have anything to do with me? Does this have anything to do with people I fuck with? If it don't, I mind my own business. So when we come out to go to rec, we seen the crowd grouped up. We already know it's finna be drama. So, but already being there and not being able to go back into the unit, me and my homies, we had like 5 or 6 of us that usually kick it. You know, a couple Laos dude, Chinese dude, and a Filipino and black dude that we fuck with. So we all go into yard 2 to observe the situation from a safe distance. And but there's a big ass crowd. So for me to be able to see what was going on, I climb up on the bathroom area. They got like a brick wall around the toilet and a urinal. So we got on and sat on top of the brick wall, which is about 4 feet high, whatever. And all we see is a big ass group of whites and a big ass group of blacks. At this time, I don't know what's going on. I haven't heard the reason for the people grouping up. But all I see is that they started spreading out and made a circle. So what happened was this. Those 2 individuals that was in another spot that had words ended up being on the same yard, bloody Beaumont. And the whites and the blacks are out there politicking the issue. And they were about to crash. It was going to be a race war between the blacks and the whites. So the 2 shot callers, or however many were participating in the conversation, agreed that instead of having a racial war with the blacks and the white, they're just going to let these 2 guys duke it out. Win or lose, the issue was going to be resolved that day. So I'm watching the black guy that's in the situation and the white guy that's in the situation. They're both being dressed up by their homeboys. And what I mean dressed up is they're giving them knives like this. When you go into a confrontation like that, you're not bringing a little pencil or a pen. You're trying to, get a machete. And everybody has one in Beaumont. It's buried all through the yard. It's put up in all different spots of the unit. Every group, every car, including myself, we all have all of our stash spots, because everywhere you go, before you get into education, before you get into a law library, before you go to rec, you're going to pass a metal. Before you come out the unit, before you go into the unit, you're going to pass a metal detector. Some of us have these things which we call floaters, which are made, they're just knives or whatever, but they're made of copper or plastic, fiberglass, that won't set off the metal detector. But the rest is all metal. When I got to Beaumont, everything that was metal, everything that was a solid piece was taken off the wall and cut up. We didn't have in each unit, there's an intercom that, when they announce the movements and stuff, you'll be able to hear it inside the unit. But in Beaumont, you couldn't hear it inside the unit because that metal plate that covers the speaker has been stripped down. The metal plates on the doors, the stuff that they put over the outlet has been taken off. The exit sign, when you come through when you're leaving the unit, there's an exit sign right there that hangs out, that lights up in green. That shit's been taken off the wall. All the lockers, all the bunks, all the shelves, and every single cell has been carved up. So you know there's a lot of artillery on that compound. You know, everybody's from a different group. Everybody's is from a gang that has rival gang members on that compound. But we all have rules to keep the peace. But the peace it never lasts. You know, one reason or another, something comes up and somebody's gonna, because of their animosity towards another group, maybe not want to resolve it through conversation. So everybody keeps themselves prepared so that they're not the one getting caught slipping. So we're watching, and they close the movement. You know, the guy in the gun tower is calling, movement closed, movement closed. But nobody in that group piled up, the whites and the blacks, none of them budge. You know, you can hear the gun tower guy calling through the intercom, clear the yard, clear the walkway, clear the walkway, return to your housing unit or go into your yard. But again, none of the crowd moved, none of the crowd budged. So I'm watching from the bathroom area out of yard 2, and I can see the white boys tying the knife on the white guy. They're tying knives on both of their hands. The same thing. The blacks are doing it to their guy. They're tying the knives up to, you know, like I told you, like when you have a knife in a penitentiary, everybody always got it on a rope, on a loop, so they can slip it over their wrist so they don't lose it or don't get it taken away from them by their opposition. So after all these guys were tied up, you know, with knives in their hands, the circle spread out and they made a circle. It was like a yin-yang sign, you know, half black, half white, and 2 guys in the middle. And they let them go at it. If you ever been in a confrontation, if you ever been in a fight, you know, a minute is a long time to be sitting there duking it out. 2 minutes is a lifetime. But this is not a fist fight. There's 2 guys with knives on each of their hands duking it out, gladiator style. You know, I mentioned before, when I mentioned this story, it's like, this is one of the most gangster thing I ever seen. Because you know you're going into the gladiator pit. You know your opponent's got a knife. You got a knife. And both your guys' intention is to kill the other. And you're not running. You're in there, in that circle, duking it out. But when you get to bloody Beaumont, in this situation, even if one of them or both of them didn't feel like they had to take it to that extreme, their hand was forced. Because their people is not going to let them bow out. Because certain words have been said. Somebody called somebody a bitch. Somebody called somebody a punk. Somebody called somebody out. And it's out there for the public as far as the prison population. Both groups know that the other dude has called out their homeboy. So now they're not going to let their homeboy bow out of it. The only way their homeboy, whether it's the black guy or the white guy, the only way that they're going to avoid fighting each other is to run up top. Running up top means run to the police and get checked in. But if they do that, they're never going to able to walk the yard again. So their choice is limited. Either go ring the bell at the lieutenant, shake the gate, and get saved by the police, and never ever to be able to walk another yard again, or get stabbed up by their own homies and never be able to walk the yard again, or fight the other dude, which will allow them to get respect and the accolades and whatever, and they might even promote them in their ranks amongst their own people. So you see, the choices you have in prison, you always have choices, but the choices you have in there, every single one of them in some way, shape, or form is detrimental to your health. But this is the environment we're in. So those two individuals really felt the only choice they had was to sit there and duke it out in the middle of the circle. And they went at it. Like I said, a couple minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, however long. At those moments in time seems to slow down, even as an observer. So I can only imagine what it's like for the participant in the situation. And when they're fighting, they're moving around inside a circle. In the circle, you can see the circle just kept moving accordingly to keep them in the center. Because everybody, the white guy, the black guys, they're all waiting. Because if a white guy jumps in to help the white guy because he's getting butchered, then it's gonna cause a racial wreck. If one of the black guys jump in to help the black guy because he's getting butchered, same thing. So everybody's out there strapped up with their knives, waiting. Some of them's hoping that it doesn't become a racial war. And, you know, in the penitentiary, a lot of times, like the only way, like I tell you, the only time you get justice is amongst two equal parties. You know, because if there's a group that's more dominant, more powerful, more violent than a smaller group that's less dominant, less powerful, you might not get the justice that you deserve, because at the end of the day, you hear the word might equals right. You know, that's the saying, that's true in our justice system, that's true in war, and it's true here in the penitentiary. But here, you know, the numbers were pretty even. And everybody on the compound, regardless how they feel psychologically or inside their heart, just being in a group collective gives them that extra assistant, extra courage to be able to do what needs to be done. You know, while this is going on, the gun tower is screaming, turn to the yard, break it up. I'm gonna hit the deuces. And you got all these COs running out of the lieutenant's office and other facilities trying to come in to break up the fight. But the crowd wouldn't let them through. The crowd stayed firm. They turned around and squared up on the COs because they're just letting them know, hey, let these two dudes duke it out. Yeah, they're fighting, they're stabbing each other, whatever, and it's a violation of prison rules. But at the same time, they're letting them know, let these dudes duke it out, because it's better to have these two guys stabbing each other in the middle of the circle than the whole yard blowing up in a racial war. You know, the first COs that ran over there, they're not going to rush through the crowd. You know, they were stopped by the crowd. But then the gun tower shot the flash grenades, and they came out with their bean bags and their gun and their mace and started macing people and all that stuff. And eventually they were able to contain the situation. But I've seen a lot of things during my time. I've heard about a lot of things that happened while I was doing my time in these different spots. And you feel maybe that somehow you get used to it. You get accustomed to these things happening in prison. But every time it always surprised me that I've seen something that is just, you never get used to it. It's not just another everyday thing, because, you know, watching the movie Gladiator or any confrontation, it doesn't compare to the shit that's happening in real time, in real life. Because when I'm watching these two dudes going at it, you can literally see chunks of their foreheads when they get hit with the knife peeling off, flying off. You know, you can start seeing their body, their clothes get soaked up with the blood from the holes that's being punctured in their body. And it's just like, wow. You know, like in this time, I don't really have the words to express what I've seen and what I was observing in that time. But it's just, that was the environment that I lived in. And it was a constant chaos. And I don't know, you know, how to express the things that I'm trying to express to people that may not understand what they're getting themselves into when they get locked up. But yeah, when you get to this level, when you get to the USP, you got to go hard or you're going to be a victim, because your people is not going to allow you to bow down. They're not going to allow you to let somebody else disrespect you. You know, and so a lot of times the situation that arises might not be that serious, but you got so many other people around you that are agitators, that relish in this type of shit, that's going to keep pushing the issue, because they want to be entertained. They want to see somebody get slaughtered. You know, welcome to the USP. I'm in bloody Beaumont.